Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm going to get right into presenting here in just a moment. Uh, some of you probably noticed that I updated the grade book. If you have any discrepancies about the grade book, or maybe there's something I missed, don't hesitate to stick around at the end of class and let me know about it. Otherwise, just shoot me an email, and I can get that sorted out for you. Also, I wanted to mention to this class that you guys have been doing just a phenomenal job, and I know that you probably, I don't know, maybe you are hearing this all the time, but it's when I look at my different class periods, your attendance is awesome, and you guys are doing a bulk of the work. Like I don't know, you guys did an awesome job with the flip grid responses. They were very insightful. They were very thoughtful. And considering all the distractions going on right now, to think that you guys are doing this awesome a job, I just wanted to say that it is really, really appreciated. And you guys are also like really timely about, I don't know, being proactive about absences and just like getting in your late work and stuff. It's really appreciated. I don't have to spend a whole heck of a lot of time on the phone with this class, like calling home or anything. You guys are just doing awesome. So please keep up the good work here. And yeah, so here we go. I should probably do this. Let's present screen. Let's see what we're doing today. Okay. So we're going to take a look at some new terms. Now, in this Quizlet link, there's 60 terms in this thing. Now, we're not going to have 60 terms on the quiz. There's going to be about 30 of them, okay? So just like you are going to need to take a look at these terms before we take this term quiz next week. And I think it's a good practice for you to understand that when it comes to studying terms or studying something that you are getting ready for, don't study the ones that you already know. Study the ones that you don't know. Go into that Quizlet link, and you can actually make yourself a PDF, or you can make yourself flashcards, or you can do whatever you need to. But make sure that you're studying the ones that you don't know. Don't waste your time studying the ones that you already do know. I'm going to be doing an upfront reading with you, why World War I still matters. Because a lot of the stuff that you've been gathering here are probably like, well, why is this stuff important? Why should we even be studying World War I? Well, that would be this is a pretty good reading that kind of reaffirms why this stuff is still relevant. Okay. You've got a World War I crash course play posit that is available for you, and I'll show you the due date for that shortly. And then lastly, I will stick around at the end of class, to talk to you individually about grade books, or if you have any questions about what's going on in current events right now, or anything pertaining to the class period, I'll stick around and talk about, okay? Kind of like an office hour type thing. So let's jump over to here. Let's go. And we're going to view this course as one of you stinkers. There we go. Sorry, Lydia. All right. So this is what the course looks like for you. So you'll see you've got a couple more due dates over here that you need to kind of be aware of. So you've got that Lost Battalion Dropbox that I'd like you to submit before Thursday, because of that will be going into the grade book on Thursday. Your World War I term quiz is either going to be on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. And for this class, I think you guys would be on Wednesday. Okay. And then on Wednesday, I would also like to think that you could get done with this World War I crash course play posit. Well, where the rip is that? If you go right under World War I and then activities, you'll see this crash course folder, and then you should see that play posit link right there. Okay, and then obviously your Lost Battalion stuff is right here. Make sure that you are studying up on these terms right here. Okay, so that's everything that you need to kind of be aware of for the rest of this week. Yeah, let's go right to Quizlet.live right now and get ready for this term quiz, shall we?
Your mic is off. Mr. Pieper, your microphone is off.
Well, that explains it. Thank you. Were the kids able to hear how long have I been off? When I was talking about Schoology, was I off the entire time? All right, here we go. Last one. Let's see if Ella's going to let anybody else play. Here we go. And there. Racy. We lost Ava. Code's right there to the left, Ava, if you can get back in.
Your mic was on when you talked about Schoology. It was just off for this.
Thank you. Got a little worried there. All right. Nice job. Okay. We are going to hop over to this. So we reviewed our terms. Next, we're off to, you guys know where that crash course play posit is. So I'm going to go right to the upfront reading, why World War I still matters. So if you want to follow along as I read here, otherwise you can just watch my screen. If you go under the activities folder, there should be an upfront article there titled Why World War I Still Matters. Okay, it looks a little something like this. Okay. But then if you download it, you can kind of zoom in a little bit better, which I kind of like to do. Okay, why World War I still matters. Millions of people were killed, mighty empires fell, and the globe was remade during World War I. 100 years later, we're still dealing with the consequences. In one moment, the world stopped and began again. On November 11th, 1918, at exactly 11 a.m. Paris time, bells rang and celebrations broke out all over the globe. After 4 years and millions of deaths, World War I was over. The timing had been laid out in an armistice, an agreement to stop fighting, written by the war's victors, the Allied powers. Led by France, the United Kingdom, and the United States, the Allies had forced their defeated enemy, Germany, to sign the agreement. The conflict it ended was so massive, people referred to it simply as the Great War. Up to that point in history, it was the bloodiest war ever. About 20 million people, both soldiers and civilians, were killed. France alone lost 1.4 million soldiers in battle, 17% of the country's fighting age men. It affected countries for generations, says Doran Cart, senior curator at the National World War I Museum Memorial in Kansas City, Missouri. It changed the whole outlay of the globe. This November 11th, bells will toll again. Bells will again ring around the world to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I. This article is about 2 years old. The war continues to influence our world. Here are some essential things to know about it. Number one, the war introduced new deadly weapons. The war began in July 1914 as a struggle for power between two groups of European nations, the Allied powers, first led by Russia, France, and the UK, and the Central powers headed by Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire, centered in what is now Turkey. Few people could have predicted that so many soldiers would be killed. A main reason for this historic loss of life, say experts, was the introduction of new weapons. So that might be an awesome question for you if you are really interested in weaponry in this time period, because this is an awesome example of the technology kind of overtaking the tactics of the time. Among these were machine guns and artillery that could fire more rapidly than before. Tanks, airplanes, and poison gas were also deployed for the first time in World War I. For protection, troops on both sides dug long ditches in the ground called trenches, using them to take cover. Soldiers sometimes stayed in them for weeks or months. By the end of 1914, the opposing armies had created an almost unbroken battle line of parallel trenches that stretched from the coast of Belgium to Switzerland. This 450-mile-long line of trenches was called the Western Front. In letters home, soldiers described the brutal reality of life in the trenches. Mud up to their knees, rats as large as cats, and the horrible smell of overflowing toilets. Ugh. When ordered to attack, soldiers rushed out of their trenches onto open ground. As they charged the opposing trenches, waves of men would be mowed down by enemy fire. Despite the high death count, battles often resulted in little or no gain of territory. Afterward, bodies sometimes remained where they had fallen. There was no safe way to retrieve them. French soldier Louis Barthas recalled stumbling upon a gruesome scene while searching an abandoned enemy trench. I saw a pile of corpses, almost all of them German, that they had started to bury right in the trench. "There's no one here but the dead," I exclaimed. Yeesh. Number two, the U.S. didn't want to get involved. When the war began, President Woodrow Wilson pledged the United States to neutrality. In fact, he got elected upon that campaign promise. But from the start, many Americans felt the U.S. should fight alongside the UK and France because of our strong historical ties to those nations. Then, on May 7, 1915, a German submarine sank a British passenger ship called the Lusitania off the southern coast of Ireland. Among the 1,200 crew members and passengers who died, 128 were Americans. What the Lusitania did was bring the war home to Americans, historian John Cooper said. Suddenly, the war conflict felt like our own. Still, it took nearly 2 more years and a steady worsening of U.S.-German relationship for America to enter the fight. On April 2nd, 1917, President Wilson asked Congress for a declaration of war. The Germans were waging a warfare against mankind, Wilson said. The world must be made safe for democracy. Number 3, U.S. troops helped save the day. On June 17th, American soldiers began arriving in Europe. The people of Britain and France, devastated by years of fighting, cheered the young Americans who marched through their streets on the way to the battlefront. Those fresh U.S. troops helped turn the war around for the Allies. On July 1918, U.S. forces joined with British and French troops to push back the Germans at the Second Battle of the Marne in France. The battle proved to be the last major stand for an exhausted Germany. By early November, Austria-Hungary and the Ottoman Empire, which were fighting the Allies in the war's Eastern Front, had surrendered. Then Germany, the last of the Central Powers, reluctantly agreed to the peace settlement. There would have been no World War II without World War I. Wow, wait. Okay, let's go right over here. Number 4. World War I remade the globe. The war triggered the collapse of 4 powerful empires: Russia, Austria-Hungary, Germany, and the Ottoman Empire. Those dynasties had been there for centuries, says Michael Nieberg of the U.S. Army War College in Pennsylvania. Now, in 4 years, they were gone. When it was all over, Germany was forced to accept blame for the war, give up about 10% of its territory, and severely reduce its military. The country was also forced to pay the Allied nations about $33 billion in damages. Whoa. These terms enraged Germans. In 1933, that anger helped fuel Adolf Hitler's rise to power, in part seeking revenge for Germany's humiliation in World War I. Hitler would eventually attempt to conquer Europe, plunging the globe into World War II. Says Cart, the National World War I Museum in Memorial, there would have been no World War II without World War I. Interesting for you to even consider here, folks, that if you ever asked yourself the question, man, why is there so much conflict in the Middle East? It's because at the end of World War I, they took the Ottoman Empire. Everything that you know of the Middle East, that was basically the Ottoman Empire. Okay. And they took that and they divvied it up without any consideration of access to ports, ethnicity. They didn't consider anything when they divvied that up. So, anyway, that's a conversation for later. But anywho, the U.S. became a global power. One nation emerged from the war stronger. The U.S., with its industrial might and more than 2 million troops, America proved itself a powerful force and was transformed into a world leader. That was the moment when the U.S. began to get involved in foreign affairs almost everywhere. That's an interesting statement, considering what we're really focusing on this trimester is how the U.S. is involved in the world. Today, however, many Americans question whether the cost of being involved in conflicts around the world is too steep. The Middle East is a prime example of this. Since 2001, nearly 7,000 Americans have died battling terrorists in Afghanistan and Iraq. The U.S. has also been involved in the fighting of the Syrian civil war that began in 2011. Conflicts in all these countries show no sign of ending anytime soon. Like past presidents, President Trump and his advisors have questioned what to do. What can the U.S. hope to accomplish in foreign wars? Can the world ever be truly made safe for democracy, as Woodrow Wilson vowed? This is a debate that comes directly from World War I, says Nieberg. It's one, he adds, that we may never finish struggling with. This is a pretty interesting timeline here as well, if you're just kind of interested in like how we arrived at, from the beginning to the end of World War I. But that's basically all that I wanted to cover today, folks. You've got a little bit of time here. I think it would behoove you to go on and get to work on that World War I play posit. There's a good number of you that still need to turn in your Flipgrid from the Civil War. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to stick around here to help out anybody that has any questions about their grade, or if you want to talk about current events because you're kind of confused as to what's going on, I'll be here for you there as well. Okay. So consider this the end of class if you want to log out and work.
Mr. Pieper.
Yeah.
I did my Flipgrid, but it didn't let me like do the whole thing because it stopped and plus I'm a slow reader, so it stopped like in the middle of it, so I couldn't finish reading the whole thing.
Okay.
So do you want me to do it again?
Did it allow you? Typically, will allow you to save your submission, and then you could just email that to me. Did it allow you to save it?
No.
It didn't? Okay.
No.
Well, I would go on to that again and try to just